But delegation is not abdication. You have to continue to be involved, and you have to make sure that they understand that if they come to you and need some help, they've got a sense that you support them, that you want them to succeed.
Hey, Castleview, good to see you again today, and great to be back on the Castleview Baptist Podcast this morning. And I've got two great guys with us, and I say that when they're here. I don't say that always when I don't see them, but two of my favorite guys are here. Bill Beckfeld, of course, our church general contractor, and Steve Peterson, who owns two Christian Brothers. You and Andrea have two here in the area. And really interesting subject, guys. First of all, I want to talk about this idea. Our church is growing. You guys notice? Have you kind of looking around a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, yep. Parking is, Sunday was Labor Day, and really interesting on Labor Day, the second service, I looked out and, even the side areas are full, and there weren't that many seats available. So we've been growing. That taxes our ministry, our volunteers, our leaders, our staff, all of that. And I wanted to talk just for a few minutes with a couple of guys that I know really have to do this in your areas of life, with general contracting and leading construction sites and teams and organizing businesses here in the area. I want to talk about something that I think will really apply to our leaders in the church, ministry leaders, staff leaders, just anyone that has any kind of a position at the church. And that would be this idea. And Steve, we've been working through John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership in our Lead Collective. And one of the laws is the law of the lid. Can you just give us a little synopsis maybe of what the law of the lid encapsulates?
Sure. So a law of the lid really, to me, has two facets. There's a personal facet that your personal effectiveness is only as high as your leadership ability is. But then I think there's also the reality that the effectiveness of an organization is only as good as the leadership of the leaders of the organization are.
Give me an example of that then. So what you're kind of saying is give me an example, maybe
Sure.
in your business.
So in our business, when we first started out, I'm a very hands-on, controlling individual, and when we first opened the business, obviously we were slower than we are now. I was involved in everything in that business. My belief was that if anybody was going to do it, I needed to do it because nobody could do it as good as I did it.
Yeah.
And as the business grew, now we have two locations. We're seeing 10,000+ customers a year. I can't be involved in every transaction anymore. I rarely am involved in any transactions anymore. And so I had to let go. That was where the law of my personal lid had to come into play, where I had to delegate responsibility, authority to other people to do the things that originally I was able to do, and that allowed our businesses to grow.
Okay.
At the same time, now I have to develop my managers to increase their lid because we run into the same constraints now through my managers that I had with myself, where they can't do everything. They can't deal with every customer. They can't deal with every situation, and so we have to encourage delegation. We have to grow the staff underneath the managers to handle situations because that allows the entire business to grow.
Okay. Interesting concept. You said you've had to grow, develop, obviously. And I think that's part of the law of the lid. If the leader's not growing, you're going to have a hard time taking somebody else somewhere. So how would you develop people underneath you? I'm thinking of anybody. I'm thinking of whether our host teams at the church. I'm thinking of nursery volunteers, greeters, whatever. Whatever area that is. How do you develop people at your workplace? How would you take them to the next level? Because at some point, if you're going to relinquish this authority to them, you have to begin to lead leaders now. And how do you develop? How do you train people under you?
Well, mentorship, absolutely mentorship, 100%. You've got to come alongside of people rather than towering over people. There's a certain point where you start to realize that being the boss or being the one that's in charge and just telling everybody what to do is just a recipe for for exactly what Steve is talking about, just placing a lid over your organization, saying we will only reach this level, we'll never go beyond this level. You've got to come alongside of your leaders and not necessarily even your leaders. You've got to come alongside of your team, and you've got to take them and you have to mentor them. So you have to spend time with them. You've got to invest in them, and you've got to listen to them. What's really interesting, the more that I mentor, is when I come alongside of people and I realize that maybe I don't have all the answers, and maybe even if I do have the answers, that there might be better answers out there. And the more you start to listen to people, engage with people, what it does is it actually allows them to start to use their own imagination, allows them to start to invest in what's going on, because you're inviting them in to be in a part of what's going on rather than just working for what's going on.
Yeah. It's if you're going to give away ministry or give away responsibility at the shop, it's hard to do that sometimes because we love. It's easier just to go do it yourself. You ever feel that way? I mean, in your organizations, it's just let me just go do that. And so I think sometimes that is one of the lids. We don't want to give ministry away because we feel like we can do it better. And another thing I think we realize is if you're going to no longer be the lid, you can't do everything. You said a minute ago, Steve, your organization was smaller at the beginning. There was a lot more things you could do. But to scale and get bigger, you can't do that forever. So now you go from, okay, I'm doing all of the things here in the office, but that's going to be the lid because we can't scale beyond this. To your responsibility is more of leading leaders. So there is an element of growth for yourself, right? I mean, if you're not growing personally, you can't take somebody else and invest in leaders. How would you guys, or how do you guys grow personally in leadership and kind of make that transition from I'm kind of doing all of these things to now I'm leading these things? How do you guys make that transition into growth that way?
Well, one of the most difficult things that I have found is to realize that I need to grow, first of all. You get to a point in leadership where it's actually easier to do everything. It's easier to have your hands in everything. It's easier for me to go on out and actually do what I'm requiring somebody else to do. I'm comfortable there. It's my comfortable place because I've gotten so good at it. Growth means I've got to take myself out of my comfort zone and I have to force myself into an area that maybe I'm not really good at. But I've got to dive in, I've got to dig, I've got to learn, I've got to experience. Sometimes I got to go out and get help. But those are the areas where we're admitting that, hey, I might not be good in this area, but it's the next area that I've got to go to or grow to in order for my business to be able to grow. It's the same with the leadership in the church and with our volunteer groups. I'm very comfortable with where I'm at right now. But as I've been challenging everybody, is I've got to move on. Because if I just stay there, it's easy for me to be there right now. It's easy. It's very rewarding. I get a lot of kudos out of it. But the reality is I'm not where I need to be. I need to grow to that next level, which means I take myself out of that comfort zone and I got to force myself into that next level of leadership.
Isn't that one of the reasons that we sometimes don't give away ministry is because we get a lot of kudos in that area. You know, I remember the early days of our church, you know, I remember hearing that, oh, Pastor, you do this and you do that. You're the one doing all the hospital visits and you've organized this thing or whatever. And that's a lid, right? I mean, if you've got to be involved in everything, you're only going to grow to a place that you can handle. And so you've got to be willing to give that away. And then I think another fear of that is they're going to do it better. And I think instead of seeing it that way, that's not a loss. You know, at your place, Steve, I mean, maybe you do it the best. I mean, you're the founder. You and Andrea have the most invested. I would imagine at the beginning there were probably some emotions of, hey, I want to be this, whatever, seen this way. But honestly, if you don't develop them to take that position and even do it better, now you're the lid.
Yes. Yeah. And I say in our organizations that, my goal is for everybody to be able to do their job better than I could do it. That's where you hire people that are better than you. I've never seen anybody lose their job, their position, or been tempted to remove anybody from their job or their position because people underneath them were succeeding. We all have the ability to grow, to do more, if the people underneath us are succeeding at their jobs. And so I think one of the challenges for a leader in whatever realm it is you need to challenge your people. You need to set them up to fail. You need to put some guardrails around them so that failure is not fatal. But failure is good. We always learn something from failing. And there's a saying that you fail forward. And if people fail and learn something from it, then they're better next time around.
How do you feel like you know if somebody's? It's hard to do that though, right? Because you look at it and go, I don't know if they can do this the way I do it or not.
Yeah.
And by the way, they don't always have to do it the way you do it. They may do it in a better way eventually.
Right.
But how do you evaluate, is somebody ready for me to give this responsibility to them? Because I think I probably do it the best. But if I keep doing this thing, then no one else is going to grow.
Yeah, I think people are ready at any time to take small responsibility. As they prove themselves able to do smaller things, then you give them bigger things. And so it may be starting out again at our shops or maybe at home. Hey, daughter, your job is to take out the trash. Okay, she's proven that she can do that. Now I can give her more responsibility. Or at the shop, hey, technician, your job is to make sure that the trash is emptied. They've proven that they can do that, and then they can grow into more responsibility. I think one of the realities of, I would say, the younger generation, but it was no different than I was young, is we want to come in and run the company. Well, the reality is you have to pay your dues before you prove you're worthy to run the company. And, we have to be willing to give people, again, the opportunity to fail, to make sure that failure isn't fatal, at least the first time around. But there's a point at which you look at people and say, okay, you've made the same mistake 3 times. You either aren't smart enough to work or you just don't care enough.
Yeah.
And then, one of the hardest decisions to make as a leader is it's time to move on. But you have to also have that standard that when it's time to move on.
Yeah. Do I need to resource you? Do I need to invest in you?
Yeah.
I can teach you if you're willing to learn. Generally, there may be some things that are out of somebody's capacity, but for the most part, if somebody's willing to learn, if they have a passion for that place, you can work with that person.
Yes. So we have an apprenticeship program in our shops. We have had several technicians that have come through that apprenticeship program and are now some of the most productive technicians that we have in the shop. But the way that every apprentice starts is as what we call an intern, and we tell them for 3 to 6 months you're going to do nothing other than change oil. Because you have to prove that you can show up and you can work hard. If you prove that you can do those things, then you've proven that you're worthy for us to invest in you. But if you can't show up on time, if you can't be dependable when we need you, then we're not going to make that investment, because it is an investment to teach them the skills that they need.
Sure.
But we've had some great payoff with some guys. Now, I would say, I tell my managers, we've got to kiss a lot of frogs. For every one success we've had, we've probably had 4 or 5 failures.
You have somebody right now that's actually kind of higher up that started this way, right?
Yeah, we've got several of our managers, came in as, I would say, semi-damaged souls for one way or the other. And I would effectively, Andre and I now do trust them with our mortgage because, we trust them to run our businesses.
Yeah.
And over time, they have grown, we have developed them, but they've proven themselves worthy of the trust that we put in them, and they're huge success stories.
Yeah. You said a minute ago, sometimes it's hard to give away responsibility because your identity is kind of wrapped up in that. I've seen pastors before that have a great staff, for example, and I never think of that pastor as lesser. Well, these guys are really talented, and boy, their talent might surpass his talent. I actually think, wow, that's a strong leader. To be able to develop and attract those kind of people in your organization, that's a strong leader. So to give other people, to empower them, to give them responsibility, doesn't diminish your leadership. It actually enhances what the organization is able to do.
There is a point, though, where in trying to grow your team, trying to get people to step up, and really you invest time in them, you have a lot of interest in them, but there is a certain point at which you also have to accept whether or not that person is capable.
They can't do it. Yeah.
And everybody has different gifts.
Yeah.
And sometimes those gifts align with the role that you want them to be in. But there are certain times where for the good of them, it isn't even necessarily, it is for the organization, but also for the good of them to say, you're just not right for this role. And I know Steve has gone through that, where you just get to the point that you realize it's better off for that person. It's better off for the organization. It doesn't mean anything bad in either way. It just means you don't have the gifts. You're just
it's not in their
person.
gifting. So if it's not in their gifting, they're not going to enjoy it anyway.
Exactly.
They're stretching outside of their comfort zone.
They're passionate.
It'd be like our greeting team or host team asking introverts to be the greeters is going to set them up for failure. They're not. We had Jeff Surratt on recently, and basically he said they're not going to be good at it. If you ask an introvert to try to be an extrovert, they're not going to do a good job with that.
Yeah.
But that same person may be amazing in a nursery rocking babies or doing some kind of work behind the scenes, and that's what they love.
And part of not being the lid and part of being a good leader is you're finding the roles that are suited to the people and a role that they can let their passion out, that they can believe in, they excel in, and they get up in the morning excited to be a part of it.
I think that's a huge key right there. Do you guys have advice on that? If you put the right people in the right places, that's huge. And we've got a lot of leaders in our church right now that are looking for more volunteers and more help. What are you looking for? How do you go, this person is going to be the right fit for this thing?
Us in particular, I watch people when they're coming in and when I'm greeting them, when I'm talking to them, and I always have it in the back of my mind, is there a role for them in what I'm doing? But also looking in kind of the bigger scope, there's other ministries. Maybe they're not suited for me. And even when I go up and talk to them and say, hey, interested, would you like to join our volunteer group or our ministry? And you have a conversation with them and you find out, they may not be the right match for this, but boy, oh boy, here's another ministry that they could fit in, or here's another ministry that maybe would excite them or bring them some passion. But it is a discernment process where you're literally listening, you're engaging with them, but you're trying to find out where are they at? What really kind of makes them tick?
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to figure it out in a hurry.
Sure. Yeah. Steve, what do you think? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that you train, you select for attitude, you train for aptitude. There is nothing that we do, whether it's in the church, whether it's in our shops, whether it's in your business, that somebody can't learn because we've all had to learn it.
Yeah.
We're not launching rockets or doing neurosurgery. We're fixing cars.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different levels of the car repair that we do. So if we find somebody with a good attitude, we're willing to invest in them to learn the skills that they need to learn. Yeah. So that attitude is, are they curious? Again, are they dependable? Do they want to learn? Do they want to get better? Or, do they want to do the minimum? If they want to do the minimum, there's really nothing you can do to help that person.
Yeah. And by the way, you're going to hurt the entire organization because you will produce what you're willing to tolerate in an organization, right? If you've got somebody, whether it's on a staff or whether it's in a ministry at the church, if you overlook somebody just being there to fill a spot, to breathe, and you're okay with that, then everyone kind of looks at that person and says, you know what, that's the standard that we have to meet. Nobody's given us a problem with that standard.
I want to circle back around to a question that you asked, which is the difficulty of delegating to somebody else. If you have somebody who is, again, driven, smart, responsible, dependable, if you don't give them responsibility to allow them to grow, you will lose them.
Yeah.
And it's easy, from my perspective, it's easy to think, okay, I've got a task and it takes me an hour a week to do. And oh my goodness, if I have to sit down and teach this person how to do it, that's going to take me 4 or 5 hours. It's easier for me to do it myself this week for an hour. But you think about the math of it is if I spend 5 hours teaching him to do it, 5 weeks from now, I'm now getting a return because I have an hour more in my week because somebody else is doing this task. But we are often so short-sighted that we don't think about that return. We don't think about the time that I get back down the road. We think about the 5 hours I have to spend this week handing that off. But again, going back to what I said earlier, we can prove to be the lid for somebody else. And somebody that's drivable, that's driven, that's capable, that wants to succeed, they will not stick around forever if you're the lid to their development.
Leaders want to lead
Yes.
at some point.
Yes.
And I think that in our pride is what it comes down to sometimes, or unwillingness to take a little bit extra time to put in the extra work to train somebody. A few years ago, I started looking around our church going, we've got some of the strongest leaders in our community at different things. I mean, we're built our building. Steve, you were Citizen of the Year this year. I mean, we've got people that lead in our church. And I think you're exactly right. There are people that, and one day I looked around and said, you know what? We need some organization. We need some leaders. We need to, wait a minute, this guy does that at his business. This guy, he goes into work every day and organizes and puts people together. This woman over here, that's what they do. You got to unleash them a little bit. And so that's maybe the third thing. The last thing I want to talk about this morning about this topic is empowerment. What does empowerment mean? Does it mean in whether you're construction site or at Christian Brothers, do you just total hands off and you let them do whatever they want to do at that point? At the same time, micromanaging is not good. Where's the balance between being able to release that person to go and do this job better than you could do it, at the same time knowing what's happening?
I think delegation requires a different level of involvement. If you delegate and walk away, you're setting somebody up for failure. You're setting the organization up for failure. So if I delegate a task to you, there needs to be some, hey, we need to sit down once a week and we need to check on where we are with these things. And ultimately, you can relax that oversight as they prove that they're up to whatever you've delegated to them. But delegation is not abdication. You have to continue to be involved, and you have to make sure that they understand that if they come to you and need some help, the reaction they're not get is, "Oh my gosh, you're so stupid. Let me just do it myself." Right? There's got to be they've got to sense that you support them, that you want them to succeed. And I think that's where so many times we think, "Oh, I can just delegate this and it's completely off my plate." It's not really off your plate. As the leader of an organization, ultimately you're responsible for everything. And so if somebody fails, you can't point to that person and say, "Oh, they failed." No, you failed because you put them in a position where they would fail, or you chose somebody that wasn't up to the challenge that you gave them. So even though we may unload some of the workload, we still have to continue to carry that responsibility.
And you have to continually empower. And I like what you said. You almost have to expect that they are going to fail. I mean, that's actually part of it, and that's okay. It's not a shame on you. It's actually in some ways, like you say, you fail forward. But you have to be a good enough leader to know that and to allow that to happen. It's when we are the fail-safe, we're the safety net, we're constantly catching them, stopping them before they fail, they never learn. So you've got to allow them to take those steps forward and then fail, but not have it be the hammer coming down on them, to have them step back, understand what they did wrong, and then move forward from there again. It's a progression. And if you stop that progression by saving them, you get nowhere. It's the same with kids. You got to allow them to fail, but you got to empower. And that's the key to even with ministry is we have to continually empower the people that are volunteering for us. We have to empower them. We got to make them want to be more.
Leaders
and do more.
don't want a task box. Okay, here's what I want you to do, Bill. I'm going to give you this responsibility, but here are the 17 check boxes that I just want you to do. Here's your tasks.
Yeah.
Leaders want to be able to take ownership. Leaders want to be able to take something and go even beyond maybe what it is right now. So you're talking so much about delegation. How do you set somebody up not for failure, but for success? Somebody said it, I do it, you watch, you do it, I watch. There's a little bit of a process there that goes along with that. How do you set somebody up when you're delegating something? And I'm thinking about our ministry leaders that need to find somebody. You said you can't abdicate your role. How do you ease them in and then slowly back away, but yet know what's going on?
I tell you, the most important thing, gets your pride out of it.
Yeah.
If you go at this pridefully, and you bring somebody in with the idea that I know the right way, it will never progress.
Yeah.
You have to go into it, you have to lead them into it, and then you got to step back and not watch for what they're doing wrong, but appreciating what they're doing right. And then you're praising the things that are going right, not because that's the way I would do it, because you see something like, wow, that's awesome. That's the way we should be doing it.
Have you seen times that someone's done something better than
Oh,
you did?
absolutely. We have people that are now coming on and that are so good at greeting and so personal. And I love watching people, and I'm not great at it, who will take somebody and go on over and sit with them. Mary did it not that long ago, where she just took a single woman, and she's not single, her husband does not come, but she literally started talking to her. Next thing you know, she sat with her throughout the entire service. She has been back week after week after week. She continually seeks out Mary every single time, and they have developed such a nice relationship. It's not what I'm good at, but she showed me what I should be good at. And to just watch that happen is just, it's unbelievable. And we've got couples that are just so good at just greeting and bringing people in and warming with them. Yes, nice, Pastor. You know, if that happens during church. I mean,
He maybe ought to delegate somebody to turn his phone off.
Oh, some of us have responsibilities to take care of. Is there anything that I have not asked you guys about that you'd say, you know what, this is really important when it comes to this whole idea of delegation or handing things over? Anything, Bill, that you would add to the
I
conversation?
still think the key is that you've got to mentor. Mentorship is so key to everything that we're doing, especially in church, that we are reaching out, we're asking for them to help us. There are so many people that are just waiting to be asked. Once you ask them, you can't just set them in and leave them alone. You've got to come alongside of them. You got to guide them. But you got to be smart enough to get out of the way and let them blossom and do it their way. And you got to just encourage that, because we've got to get our pride out of the way, because it's not us, it's God that's doing this work. And allow that Holy Spirit to take control and allow that Holy Spirit to work in our community. But also in the same regard, just because it's a church activity and they are doing something that we believe is for God, be smart enough to look at it, and if they're not doing it right, to find a different role for them.
Okay.
Because we still have to be careful there.
We do have to talk about this for a second.
Yep.
That's a great point. What if somebody's not it's just not working, right?
Yep.
I think we understand the side of, hey, they're doing even better. We can watch them and now we applaud and hey, great job. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yep.
The hard part for a church, like in a business for you guys, hey, listen, it's a bottom line organization. And if it doesn't work, then we got to move you. This is business. Well, church is awfully important. We're talking about the business, the mission of people, right? What do you do when somebody doesn't fit?
I don't know that the answer is any different in church than it is in business. I almost feel like the standard in church is higher than in business. The church has a stewardship responsibility to use their limited resources the best that they can. And if somebody is not excelling, succeeding in a position, maybe you move them to a different position, because maybe, and we've done this in business where they do well in a different position. It was the position, not the person, but sometimes it's just the person.
Yeah.
And there comes a point when you have to just admit this person is not capable of doing not just the job I put them in, but any job. Well, either they're not capable, more likely they're not willing to do
More
it.
likely they're not willing.
Yeah.
Sure,
And again, to me, it becomes a stewardship issue.
Yeah.
The standard, I believe, is much higher in the church than it is in business.
Interesting.
Yeah. But you've got to allow them. You've got to allow them to try. You've got to help. If you've mentored them and you brought them forth, but their passion and their desires just aren't there, then you have to find a different role for them. You really do. And what's difficult is the fact that everybody's there for the same purpose. We're there to honor God. We're there to serve God. But sometimes I think our pride gets in the way, and it's the same with the people that we're bringing up. Sometimes their pride gets in the way, and they think they're the only ones and they can do it the best, and the reality is they're not. And that's where you gently have to say, let's try this over here.
And it is a mistake. It's a failure in leadership if you have to remove somebody and it's a surprise to them.
Yes.
You know, that there should be some conversations, there should be some training, some resourcing, some investing, some helping, hey, this is what we're looking for. Here's how you do it. Here's what we can do with this.
Yep.
You never want to get to that place where you walk in to say, hey, this isn't working. And they go, wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. We've had a couple of instances where we've had people that have left the organization because they knew they weren't meeting the standards.
Because you'd been talking to them so much.
We've been talking to them, yeah. And so they removed themselves before we had to remove them. Yeah, the biggest failures are the ones where somebody feels like they were blindsided when you let them go. Now, sometimes that's a lack of self-awareness.
Yes.
That's an unwillingness to listen to what's being said.
Yeah.
But as long as it's that and not, I never knew I wasn't cutting it,
right,
and all of a sudden I don't have a job.
Right. You should
that is
be able
a leadership
to look back,
failure.
Even a paper trail, different meetings we've had. This is, we've been talking about this, and you're right. Sometimes most people do leave an organization and they have their own perspective. But I want to be able to put my head on a pillow at night and go, we did everything we could.
And we've talked about this, Pastor. When it comes to running a ministry, the key to doing it is that we're setting clear expectations.
Yeah.
People want to know what's expected of them. It's not that they don't want to fulfill what they've been asked to do. It's, are you setting clear expectations, and are they, if they can see that roadmap and they know what you're looking for, people are more than willing to fulfill it.
People grow best when they know what's expected.
Yes.
Why don't we give clear expectations? Generally because we feel bad putting something on somebody else, right? I don't really want to do this because I need to be doing something else. Well, if I don't want to do it, then they're not. It's a huge mistake.
You know what still cracks me up, and it's mentioned a lot around our community, and I've heard it from you, I've heard it from Johnny, I've heard it from Christian, and I hear it a lot. Shelley just said it the other day. What's really difficult with volunteers is that they're not paid. I'm here to tell you that people need to change that mindset. We are paid. We're paid by the Almighty. And if you think for 1 second you're not being paid by volunteering, you're wrong.
Yeah,
because we are earning treasures in heaven. And if that is the case, your volunteerism is paying you dividends.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that this is not free.
I love that. First of all, Steve, do you have anyone you want to call out on this episode in the church? You just went through 4 or 5 names.
I won't speak badly of Bill while we're doing the podcast.
Not in public. No, I love that idea. I understand the concept of it, that, okay, you're not signing their check, and so sometimes you can't expect too much. This is God's business, right? And so you have to have high expectations of the people, right? We were in a men's meeting maybe a month ago, and DJ Schwartz is there, who literally does send rockets up into space. And you said not rocket science. Well, that's what he does. That's what he does. And I made the comment in that men's group. Listen, we've got a lot of important things and important guys in this room, but there's no more important business, and I said DJ included, shooting rockets up into space. There's no more important business in the world than leading people into a growing relationship with Jesus. And so to let the standard fall, it's the church. No one's getting paid, so
they're volunteers, so we'll accept mediocre.
Yep.
Yes.
We need to accept nothing less than excellence
That's it.
in everything we do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. Nothing less than excellence, and that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because it's this treasure principle book that we're going through right now.
Yeah.
We are building up treasures in heaven that are treasures for the rest of our lives. And it's the things that it's the gold at the end of the rainbow that we're building up. Come on, people.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
This is where we should be. Exactly. Excellence.
Yeah.
We should be requiring excellence.
Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might. Yeah. Right? Whether therefore you eat or drink, do all to the glory of God.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, I say this sometimes, I think it was our first Sunday, that maybe it was our second Sunday, our mission teams were gone, and I had a couple guys, and we were setting up chairs in the auditorium at the school, and I heard one of them yell across the room to the other, "Hey, are the chairs done?" And the guy responded, "Close enough." And I just went, "Oh no, it's not close enough." I mean, and you don't want to be that guy that is, I don't know what term I want to use here, but you don't want to be that guy that's overly OCD or hard on people. But at the same time, right at the beginning, I wanted to set the tone that no. It's not close enough. Is it right? Is it excellent?
Yeah.
Have we done our best? Whether you're rocking babies to sleep in the nursery, whether you're greeting guests, whether you're singing on the worship team, whether you're in the choir, whether you're counting money, whatever that looks like that day, do it to the best of your ability.
We just talked about it in the Dream Team. Last weekend, we were expecting numbers to be down because of people traveling.
Yeah.
And the message was it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
If there's one person
That's
out
right.
there, we still have to give it everything that we have.
That's it.
Because that one person is valuable.
Yeah.
And the message that they get has to be the same message
That's it.
as now versus the full auditorium. It doesn't matter. It's the same message. And I love what you said, Steve. And we should be held to that standard of excellence. This is for our Lord.
Yeah.
It should be all about excellence. And again, we are being paid to be there. He is paying us treasures. And come on, people.
Yeah.
It's time to do it.
Yeah.
Shameless plug for Thursday morning, Thursday evening men's group.
Yeah.
We just started a new book last week called The Titus 10.
Yeah.
And the first chapter, the author's talking about how God has given men dominion over different things.
Yeah.
And the first thing he starts out with is church. And so many times that's the last thing we worry about. We give 110% of our effort at work and then come home and God willing, we got a little bit to give to the family. We come to church and we just expect to sit in a chair and be entertained and then leave and expend no effort. And that's the exact opposite of what our priority should be.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Great insights today, guys. That was very, very helpful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And Castleview, you may be in a leadership position right now, and maybe you're working through some of these things. Here at our church, we've got other people at different churches, pastors that'll watch this. If you're at our church, we've got a couple of great resources right here. Hey, I need to learn how to delegate to somebody. I need to know how to be looking for and training. Couple of great resources right here. Talk to us. Let us know how we can help resource your area. And maybe you're here and you go, you know what? I'm not leading a ministry. I'm just serving in it. I love the message that was just given today. Hey, you are being paid. You're in the most important business in the entire world, and that is the people business. And God is concerned, and He cares about how we operate even in the church, and I think even more so in the church. Hey, thanks for listening today, and I hope this little topic today helped you as you're desiring and striving to lead and be the best leader that you possibly can be. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you next week.